Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about the crazy price increases of 2020. This year we've seen vintage toys go through the roof. The prices are getting out of hand, out of control, and crazy. I'm talking to you about a lot of factors that have led to this year. I'm also going to talk to you about a couple of ways that you can collect a little bit cheaper, save yourself some money. We're going to get into all this coming up. First off, the answer everybody's going to give if you ask why are prices going up in 2020, you're going to hear that there was some sort of a thing that happened this year that caused a lot of people to not have to go to work and to stay home, have extra free time, and to get extra money on top of it all. A lot of disposable income, and then there are news stories saying that disposable income went to toys. Articles such as this suggest that people used their money that was coming in extra to buy toys, and hey, maybe even skipping some mortgage payments to buy toys. I don't really know if people are doing that, but there's a reason why people are buying toys, and it isn't just because they're getting extra money. There's also the whole nostalgia piece. See, a lot of new content, a lot of new movies and TV shows didn't come out this year. A lot of stuff got pushed back, and there's an increase, according to this, 85% increase in streaming services during last March. This gave people time to catch up on old classics that they haven't had a chance to catch up on in years, maybe even decades. Maybe they realize they want to have piece of this wonderful history in their possession. They want to start collecting. With that, there's more collectors this year entering into the collecting community. We see that in the Facebook groups. We see that in bids and offers on eBay. We see that everywhere, but nothing more than with Star Wars. When it comes to Star Wars, it is one of the most expensive toy lines to collect for, especially when you're looking into the more rare, hard to get items. Extremely expensive. Now, I do want to point out here that a $17,000 carded Star Wars figure does not break records for Star Wars. We've had them sell in the $50,000 range, but this particular 12-bag double telescoping Luke, that's a pretty high amount for a double telescoping Luke. Let's look at some other lesser known toy lines, because obviously Star Wars is a juggernaut. This stuff's going to get more expensive every year, no matter what, seemingly. But what about Silverhawks? Now, why are they getting expensive? A lot of people feel like Silverhawks might be climbing in value for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're just not very common. There's not very many of them floating around. You can't go to a corner shop and pick one up. A local toy shop probably doesn't have very many in stock, if they have any. And I remember there was a time probably 5 years ago when I could pick all of these up for about 20 bucks a piece. Nowadays, they're fetching a really high price. There is question and concern if we'd ever see figures made like this again with the vac metallized plating that's going on. I don't know if toy companies are going to do that because they haven't been doing it lately. Speaking of Star Wars, the last vintage collection C-3PO didn't even get the vac metallized treatment that all of the other iterations seem to have gotten. I don't know why Hasbro's getting away from that. I don't know anybody at all that collects and really wants a flat, goldish looking C-3PO. Very disappointing in my opinion, and I'm wondering, is this a trend going forward with all toy lines? Next up, I want to talk about G.I. Joe and G.I. Joe figures. G.I. Joe has really shot through the roof these days, especially 2020. Part of that might be because of the popularity of the G.I. Joe classified line, and a lot of collectors are excited about the classified line, even though it's not exactly what anybody wanted or expected. But yes, here we see prices have skyrocketed. My favorite figure is Storm Shadow. Version 1, that's my favorite one. And when you look and you see that the price has gone through the roof to get a complete one, it's insane how expensive these figures have gotten just over the last year or two. I remember just a few years back, this was a $30 figure. Now it's People are paying upwards of $400. That's kind of crazy. Let's take another look at another juggernaut of a toy line, and that is vintage G1 Transformers. So a G1 Megatron sealed in the box is going for some serious money, but I do want to say something that has propelled prices higher isn't exactly a 2020 thing. It is AFA rating, or any sort of action figure rating. Nothing against Action Figure Authority or any of the other ones that rate them, but I am personally against rating anything. You're going to spend $50 to $300 on nothing, basically, to add no value to your figure, but now your figure, you think it's worth $2,000 more? I don't think so. I am 100% against AFA rating. I never will AFA rate anything in my whole life, and I never have. I have stuff that has been AFA rated, but it doesn't fit my collection, and I don't really care for it, but it makes these things so much more expensive. And I know a lot of people think, well, it's AFA rated, so I can trust it's authentic and all of that. Well, let's take a look at another fun toy line, and that is Centurions. And that prices on these figures are shooting up big time. One of these figures is the Traumatizer. It was a Sears exclusive. It is really hard to come by. Most average people that don't collect Centurions probably don't even know this exists. I have to admit, I didn't know it existed until I started collecting Centurions. Thought I had everything. I'm like, what is this? I don't have this. I never heard of this. And yes, it is a Centurion toy, and it is getting really expensive and going through the roof. The thing about it is, though, it almost like a switch flipped overnight. Because if you look down here at the bottom, back in July, one sold for $310. I admit, it wasn't on the market on eBay for longer than 10 minutes, and it sold for $310 almost instantly. So $310 is a little lower than the price. But when you look at the other ones up top, some of those actually sold but never actually got paid for. So you're looking at kind of around the 1,000 mark on this guy now, which is crazy. Now, I actually thought Kenner Superpowers would have been one of the cheapest toy lines to collect. Like, I was thinking like the Secret Wars that they had going on at the time and all of those. I lump them all together, but it turns out these Kenner figures that all have some sort of an action feature to them are really hard to get. They're getting harder and harder to get every day. Even if you do a search on eBay, you can probably find every single one of them, but they get expensive. One in particular is Cyborg. For whatever reason, this was one of the later series figures and not released in high quantities and hard to get a hold of. Kind of like the G.I. Joe BAT, the Bat. That figure, it has like a replaceable hand gimmick. It has attachments that you can use, and getting the attachments are hard. Getting the figure is hard. Plus, this has the back metallized chrome finish to it, kind of like the Silverhawks. It's still a really hard figure to get, and I don't think it'll ever get reproduced by Hasbro. So I'm going to throw a couple of other different toy lines your way, like Voltron. Old, true vintage Voltron toys are getting more expensive in price. And part of that is, this is a toy line that has been passed from one company to another company to another company over the years. There's very inconsistent on how to collect Voltron. So it is certain Voltrons are worth something, certain ones are not. Some are more desirable than others. Obviously, you have to do your research on this. Don't go out and just buy any old Voltron. Buy the one you want. Figure out which one you want if you're in on the Voltron scene. But yes, the prices are going up on Voltron. Also, even amidst a time where we've got so many more options coming out, it seems like every day. Do y'all remember Dino Riders? Dino Riders are skyrocketing in price. I don't remember these things being this expensive a few years ago, but nowadays it is ridiculous. It's hard to believe so many of these figures are going for the $1,000 mark. It just shocks me. And I could see maybe the later series weren't produced very much, and then the earlier series, maybe it's just hard to get them in the box. But yeah, Dino Riders have gotten expensive. This was put on my radar. I don't collect it. I don't know much about it, but I know that people were telling me that the prices have shot up on this, so I figured I'd include it. Next up, I want to talk about some Visionary stuff. And Visionaries has actually gotten more expensive as time went on. In fact, from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, the prices have gone through the roof. It almost seems like it's cooling off a bit right now, but it's still pretty expensive. Earlier this year, I decided to get a carded set of these, and I got carded set for about $50 a figure, and some of them I had to pay like $60 a figure. Bought them in lots, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But now I'm seeing these things going for crazy prices. Now, nothing's more expensive in the Visionaries realm than the Dagger Assault vehicle with the Rican figure. If it was all complete 100%, if it was sealed, you probably wouldn't want to see that price. But yes, I'm surprised these are getting more expensive. One of the reasons these are getting more expensive is because we're seeing that Hasbro probably will never revisit holograms again. Yeah, a few years back, there was a San Diego Comic-Con set that included a Leoric figure, and this Leoric did not have a hologram. He had a foil sticker, which I kind of like the foil sticker, but the true blue hardcore Visionaries collectors did not like this at all, and they voiced their opinions. And I guess I can kind of see you want things to be the way they were, and I understand. And also, this figure is smaller. It's a 3 3/4 inch scale instead of the more like the 4.5 to 5 inch scale, which the bigger Visionary figures were back in the day. Which, when you start messing with things like scale and not having the original stickers the way it should be in the 3D kind of stickers, then I can see why vintage is more desirable. So I'm going to give you some quick tips on how I collect, ways to get stuff a lot cheaper. When you look at this picture with Storm Shadow, you see a bunch of Storm Shadows around, well, not around the same price. I don't know why that one went for $400 when the rest of them were like $183 or $165. But let's take a look at these. In this example, I would buy a lot of figures. The lot for like $170 something, $175. I actually wouldn't spend that much on these. I've gotten all this for way cheaper than that, by the way. But anyway, this is just an example of what was sold and on open market. And then versus one figure that's 100% complete for that same price, you get 2, 4, 6, 8 figures that are not complete. It looks like Baroness might be complete in this. And you have to hunt down maybe 2 more weapons for Storm Shadow, a couple weapons for these other ones. Now, it depends on how you collect. If you absolutely cannot stand you're missing one weapon until you track it down and find it, then you can't do it this way. If you're not that kind of person, you can't deal with it, and you have to pay top dollar and get it completely complete, then that's your burden you'll have to bear. I'm okay with missing a little thing here, a little thing there when I find it. It's a whole lot of fun. That's how I collect. That's my advice. And I could get 8 times more for the same money. Also, look into Facebook groups. Facebook groups, you could usually find people that are willing to sell things for a better price. The best way to do it is to watch what pops up and then jump on those deals. Not put out an ad or whatever saying, hey, I'm looking for this, because guess what? You're not going to get the deal that way. If you're looking for something, then somebody wants to sell it. They never seem to want to let it go for a decent price. But if somebody just is wanting to get rid of something on Facebook, the price is always better. So Facebook is a good place to buy stuff in the groups. I do want to say, don't do friends and family unless you're very, very comfortable with the person. I, for the most part, don't do friends and family hardly at all, ever. Another thing to do is you can get references from people in the group and get to know what you're doing when you're dealing with this. You have buyer and seller protection through PayPal if you're using PayPal. So I hope you enjoyed this little discussion about why prices are so high in 2020. What other toy lines have spiked dramatically this year that you've noticed? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.